I remember being at the game and Tevez being next to me, lacing up his boots. And I was like, wow, this is unbelievable.
For 15 years, Brandon Ashton was more than just Manchester City's kit man. He was part of the fabric of the club.
A few months ago, I was in high school doing maths. Now I'm in the dressing room sorting the lads out.
A key figure surrounded by world-class players, a trusted presence in the dressing room, and the heartbeat of a squad that made history.
Edding scored. So then I've come running up the tunnel, and then we started watching the game, it kicked off again, and then Agüero scored, and then just all hell let loose. It was crazy.
From the chaotic early days of the Abu Dhabi takeover to the club's first ever Premier League title, from witnessing the highs of a historic treble to becoming a viral sensation himself, belly sliding across champagne-soaked floors in the wildest title celebrations, he saw it all.
Agüero started throwing milk on the floor, and it was sort of his idea, and started doing this. So I was like, oh, so obviously in the moment you just do anything. So I did it, and then it became a thing.
Now he shares his story, the unseen side of Manchester City, the moments you've never heard before. For perspectives on rising ballers, this is Brandon Ashton, uncensored, unfiltered, and in his own words.
I mean, it's taught me so much about myself. I didn't know I had this drive and fire in my belly. Hi, I'm Brandon Ashton, and this is Perspectives with Rising Ballers.
Brandon, thank you for joining us. I guess we'll start right at the beginning. It's no secret that you're kind of best known for being the Man City kit man for 15 years. Can you tell us about how you first joined the club?
When I first joined the club, I knew the kit man at the time, legendary fella called Chappy. He was a family friend. And I sort of looked up to him, and for years, obviously because of his personality and character, as people know, and because of his job. And then when it was coming up to work experience, there was only one place I wanted to go. So I got in contact with him. Luckily, he agreed. I did 2 weeks work experience there, and then I came back just to help him out. He would pay me out of his own pocket. So I did, as I was doing my GCSEs, I was helping him out with the deliveries of the new kit for the 2009-2010 season. And then he asked me after that, he was going on pre-season to Germany, needed someone to help him. And then he said, can you come? So literally a day after my prom, I was flying out to Germany on pre-season tour.
That's mental. So during the GCSEs, you must have only been 16?
16.
That's a crazy,
just turned 16.
That's a crazy experience, right? With somebody
Yeah.
that young. So you mentioned you joined in the 09-10 season. If I'm right, that's kind of right as the Abu Dhabi group took over, right?
Yeah.
What can you tell us about those early stages? Because it must have been a big transition from the club prior to them coming in and kind of changing everything. I'm just wondering, like, was it an instant shift or a gradual evolution?
When I did my work experience, that was November 2008. So, I mean, I was absolutely buzzing just to be in the club. So it was like players like Robinho was there, Craig Bellamy, and you could see something was coming and it was changing. And then when I joined in 2009, it was when Tevez, Adebayor, Touré joined, and you could just tell, all these different, massive players are coming on board, and you could tell that, this is going to change, even though I just joined.
Yeah. So you kind of mentioned a couple of them there. What was it kind of like going from, not being disrespectful, but maybe kind of mid-table Premier League players to these international stars coming in?
Well,
is there any crazy stories from kind of those guys joining that you can remember?
Well, I didn't see it from before, because I'd just seen it from when obviously they took over. And I remember going in, there were a few players there on my work experience, and then I remember seeing Robinho walking down the corridor. And Chappy had a name for everyone, so he'd be shouting like Rabin, and he'd come down, and then I was like even more in awe, because this is a Real Madrid player, ex-Real Madrid player, and I couldn't believe it. And then like Tevez as well. My first game that I worked, it was Crystal Palace away, and it was when Tevez scored his first goal for the club. Crystal Palace away, midweek Carling Cup, and I got told the day before that I was going. So I was only 16. I was like, I don't even have a passport, like, with me. So everyone was laughing at that. But obviously, being 16, I thought to go on a plane, you needed a passport, even though it was in the same country. And then I went down to the hotel, but I had nothing with me, just a tracksuit. And this is how times have changed. Chappy and Richard Dunn literally walked me from the hotel to Sainsbury's to get me toiletries, which wouldn't happen now, you know. And then I remember being at the game and Tevez being next to me, lacing up his boots. And I was like, wow, this is unbelievable.
Yeah, living the dream, man. Were you a Man City fan growing up?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Crazy. It must have been a crazy time.
Yeah, it was.
One kind of moment, I guess you'd have been there for a few years at this point, but cemented in football history was Agüero's winning goal in 2012.
Yeah.
To win the Prem on the last day. Can you take us through, if you can remember, what that whole day was like? Kind of the build up to the game, what the mood was like in the dressing room, the game itself, you know, Joey Barton, Agüero, everything that happened. Can you just kind of run us through that?
Yeah, it was. I mean, the season itself, you know, we thought the lads would do well, but not win the Premier League. You know, United was so far ahead, and then that belief just started towards the end of the season. And then when it come to the QPR game, and it was all down to that, I felt like there was no doubt, you know, until when the game started, and then obviously things went differently. You know, 2-1 down to QPR, and it's a chance to win the Premier League. You know, it was totally different. It was the most nerve-wracking thing at that time that I'd experienced. So when it went 2-1 and nothing was happening, I remember I was just pacing up and down the tunnel. I couldn't sit down. I ended up in the gym. There were a few people just pacing up and down the gym. And then Edin scored. So then I've come running up the tunnel, and then we started watching the game and kicked off again. And then Agüero scored, and then just all hell let loose. It was crazy. It was top. Everyone basically just stormed the pitch, fans included. And then I remember coming in and then being like champagne glasses on the side as soon as you walk in, which I'd not experienced before. Obviously, some of it from the year before, from the FA Cup final. But yeah, it was crazy. There were people celebrating, some people in, you know, complete disbelief, didn't know what was happening. And then, yeah, it was just an unbelievable experience.
Yeah, I mean, utter jubilation, I imagine.
Yeah.
During the game, obviously, there was the incident with Joey Barton, got the red card, kicking out of players. Do you think that kind of sparked like a togetherness almost? Like it was almost like a battle?
I don't know about that.
No?
No, I don't know about I can't remember that bit, to be honest with you. The day is a complete blur. Yeah. I remember just little bits. I mean, like, obviously the main thing is I remember the Agüero goal, but through the day, like, it's just a blur. I think because of all the nerves and everything, and it being the first one, it was special.
No, for sure. You mentioned it being a blur. What was the night out like after?
A blur. No, it was really good. I think we was in the dressing room obviously for a long while, and then there's families there and stuff, and then we met in some Chinese restaurant, and then we had the party at the town hall. And obviously being 18, I could join in the celebrations this time. The year before I was at the FA Cup final, it was sort of drinking fruit shoot or something. This one I could actually celebrate, but it was really good. We went in to the town hall, they had it all done out, and there was like people like Liam Gallagher there, Ricky Hatton there. Yeah. I remember singing Wonderwall next to Liam Gallagher, which was unbelievable.
18 years old, first Premier League. It must have been mental.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So during those kind of years, obviously we'll get on to Pep, but there's a couple of other legendary managers that was around the club at that time. Mancini, Pellegrini. What were they like?
Because obviously when I started, we had Mark Hughes as manager. When Mancini came in, he was obviously came from Inter Milan. And it was a massive shift. Obviously, each manager that comes, you just build the belief because of what they've done in, you know, their past. And then when Mancini come in, obviously, with the bringing players in like Mario Balotelli, who at the time was, you know, top star. And it just boosted that belief.
For sure.
But each one was completely different.
What were kind of, between those two then, Mancini and Pellegrini, what would you say was like a big difference between them?
Mancini for me, because I'd never, I'd only been there 6 months. I think Marquis left in the December. I'd only been there 6 months, and it was I think changing like the philosophy of a foreign manager coming in. Things were different. And obviously it was a great time with him, Premier League and 2 major trophies, a Premier League and an FA Cup. And then when Pellegrini come in, it changed as well. So each manager has obviously a different dynamic on how they manage. In fact, Pellegrini, I saw him when we was in China, when he was manager of West Ham. He was just a gentleman. So I was in China, it was pre-season, we played against West Ham. It was a tournament and there were a few teams there, but I seen Pellegrini there and I spoke to him for 15 minutes, and that was the longest time I'd spoke to him in one go in 3 years. And then another time I remember we had a game against Chelsea and I drove the kitman down to Chelsea on my own, and I remember one of the kitmen saying that the gaffer had asked where I was and they told him I was driving to Chelsea, and his response was, for sure he'll end up in Newcastle.
So you've kind of mentioned different changes with different managers. Pep has obviously built a football dynasty, done things we've never seen before in the Premier League. I think he joined in 2016?
2016, yeah.
How much did things change again, I guess? And what was the most noticeable thing? Like, could you really tell, like, okay, this guy's... Because he came with that pedigree already.
Yeah.
Could you tell, like, this is the guy now?
Yeah, well, it's his name as well. What he'd done in the past, you knew, what he's bringing to the table. It was just, it's sort of, this is it now. And then you start thinking about Champions Leagues and more Premier Leagues and stuff like that, for which he did. I remember when he first come in, the biggest thing for me, which I remember, is when he first come in, is that instead of there being a sort of hierarchy with staff and players, everyone felt as one. He made everyone feel part of the team. So going into games, I felt like I had a vital role to, get the lads going, do my job. You wake up in the morning of a game and I was just ready for it. Not that before I wasn't, but just this, another level. And being part of a team which he was the manager of, any team you come against, you had no doubts.
Yeah. I guess that's probably speaks to like how he worked, that he brought the best out of
everyone.
Everybody.
Like, honestly, he was just so approachable, and everyone, I felt like everyone were just on the same level. Yeah, I'd never experienced anything like that before. Just a full family feel to the club. Yeah. It did before, but I mean, just this, it was more. Another thing with Pep, which I'll be forever grateful for, is when my son was born. He was born 3 months premature, and he was in hospital for 4 months. And not just Pep, the club itself as well. And they were so supportive. And, they let me have the 4 months off. And any other times he was in hospital, I was, just allowed to go full pay. They let me stay with him, and they were just so supportive for me and my family.
He's kind of known for being like next level obsessive sometimes, past players have spoken about.
Yeah.
Is there any crazy method or anything that you can remember? Like, was there a weird rule for people being late, or just something kind of off the
Not
route?
really, no. I mean, with his obsession, I remember if we ever won a game, I mean, by like a substantial amount, and you'd come in and think, I'd always think as a manager, they'd sort of be like, today, the day after the game, I'm going to chill out today. But not him. You'd come out onto the pitch and he'd already be there, and he'd just be literally pacing around the pitch, looking down. You could see the cogs in his mind working, thinking about the next game. And then I remember when we won, it was at the Carabao Cup final against Arsenal. Was that 2018? The next game after that was Arsenal in the Premier League. So, you might have seen the videos and stuff of me on the plane on a serving trolley in my boxers with the Carabao Cup, Edison pushing me. We were all celebrating on the plane, and then I remember seeing Pep at the front, and he had his laptop open, and we just won the Carabao Cup, and he was watching the game back again. Obviously to plan for the next game, Arsenal, a few days later. So you could just see that mentality.
I guess that kind of sums up his genius in a way, that the win's there, but he's straight on to the next one.
Yeah.
How did he kind of feel about the celebrating and that? How does Pep deal with that stuff? Does he kind of just let the boys...
He's like, he loves it, but he stands back and he watches it from afar, but loves it.
So one of Pep's assistants during the time he was there was Mikel Arteta, who's obviously kind of gone on to do well at Arsenal these last few seasons. Could you foresee him becoming his own manager while he was at the club?
Yeah, 100%. You could just see bits that he was doing at end of training. He was pulling players to the side, and doing extra work with them, and even listening to him talk. You could just see that he was going to be a manager, and a good one at that. And he was great for us as well as a kit man. He was brilliant for us. So we used to drive to every game. Some of them would be a long day. Bristol City was one of them, and it'd be you get up in the morning. You're setting off at 7 a.m. down somewhere to the team hotel, to the stadium, setting up. And then after the game, you're driving back. You're not getting back till 2 a.m. And then you're up at 6 a.m. preparing for the recovery day the next day. So he was someone who stood up and said, these guys can't do this. And from then on, we had a driver, a kit van driver, that we loaded the van. I'd go down with him, but then after the games, I could travel back with the team. Or one of the other kit men could travel back with the team. And, it just made it a lot more easy. You'd spend more time at home. You'd be better rested. Because obviously, if you're driving all day driving, and then you're having, 3-4 hours sleep, and straight back to the training ground.
That sounds like something maybe him and Pep had in common then, was this kind of, not compassion per se, but empowering everyone in the club behind the scenes, the whole staff.
Yeah.
Like he saw a problem that you guys had.
Yeah. I'd imagine the way Mikel manages Arsenal is similar in a way of like chemistry is similar to the way Pep does it.
So kind of still in Pep's tenure, the 22-23 season was when City won the treble and the first ever Champions League trophy, which is something the club was obviously coveting for a long time. Just talk to us a bit about that season and kind of like what was the atmosphere like behind the scenes? And was there a particular moment maybe where you thought like, yeah, it's on, we're taking it all?
I feel like we felt like that every pre-season, but then when Big Earl come on board, you thought, oh, here we go. So yeah, I mean, obviously during the seasons, as it was ups and downs, but this season particularly was, phenomenal. And it was just a shift. So obviously building up to the Premier League, the final stages of the Premier League, everyone would be focused on that. And then as soon as the Premier League were done, it was focused on the FA Cup. And as soon as that were done, everyone's head was just straight on the Champions League. But during that, you had no doubts.
What's the kind of atmosphere like in the dressing room at that point? Like, you've won once, everybody has to go again.
Yeah, that's literally the mentality. Everyone's like, remember next week, because it was literally 2 weeks. It was, it was the end of the Premier League, FA Cup final, Champions League final.
Did it take a moment, do you think, for that kind of mindset to set in after Pep's arrival, or was it something that as soon as he came, you just felt that shift, and everyone now has the sort of the mental strength, I guess, to get so many championships and cups?
I think after the first year, 2018, that helped, because that was amazing as well. Because 100 points, no one had ever done it before. That was unbelievable. And another thing, going back to his mentality, was I think we won the league in April, and I thought that's it now, done for the rest of the season. Technically, we're going to be chilling out and all that lot. But no, it was. I think when we found out, we were all straight out, because I think it was a day off, and everyone was straight out to celebrate. But when we got back into the training ground, because there still was games remaining, there was like pictures up on the walls around the training ground of the records that need to be broken. Wow. So he'd won the Premier League, and then he was automatically onto the records.
So Pep's putting those posters up?
Well, or one of his team was, yeah. It was just amazing.
Wow. So the Champions League final specifically, as I mentioned, is kind of something that City were maybe missing from the trophy cabinet and wanted for a long time. What did that day look like? The build up, the mood?
The one in Istanbul for the treble was completely different. Completely different. It just felt like another game. So relaxed. In the afternoon, we seen our families, and then going to the stadium, felt relaxed.
What about the game itself? He was obviously like,
yeah,
pitch
pumped,
side.
Pumped. Yeah, it was. It was a great game, and again, I had no doubts. I had no doubts about it. But at the same time, it was nerve-wracking during the game because of what it is. You see all this ceremony and everything about it. See the Champions League at the side of the pitch. But yeah, unbelievable.
You had a kind of a favourite trick, if you will, which was belly sliding across the changing room that we've all seen on videos. How did that start? Did somebody dare you to do it, or?
It started off, there was a song called, is it Purple Disco Machine? Yeah. It's called Purple Disco Machine, and one of the staff put it on, and before the players got there, I think it was 2019, and we were playing Liverpool. Before the players got there, we used to muck around, play two-touch and stuff. Everything was done. And he put this song on, and then I just come out in my undies. And it wasn't a slide, I just started dancing around the dressing room. And then when I think we beat Liverpool, he put the song on. And then, because obviously the adrenaline was high, I did it. And then it becomes sort of a thing then. I remember at Bournemouth as well, I think Mikel asked me to do it.
Mikel did?
Yeah, we're at Bournemouth, but if anyone who's ever been in Bournemouth dressing room, it is the smallest dressing room in the world, so it was a bit hard. And then it sort of, when we won the league in 2019 at Brighton, that's when it turned into a slide, because Agüero started throwing milk on the floor. And it was sort of his idea, and started doing this. So I was like, oh, so obviously in the moment you just do anything. So I did it, and then it became a thing. And then I did it at the FA Cup final the week after, which was when it went viral. I think Bernardo put it out on his socials, and it went viral. But as the years went by, it did sort of get, you'd be at a final where you could win a trophy or something like this, and the minutes would be counting down, seconds would be counting down, and you'd be buzzing, there's another trophy. But then it'd dawn on me that I'm going to have to do this again. I'd be like, oh my God, I hope they forget. And yeah, they didn't forget. The people would be celebrating in the dressing room, and then all of a sudden someone would come out and go, right, we're doing it. And I'd be like, oh. Like especially last season, I thought I got away with it because like 10 minutes went by, and then Kyle Walker come up and went, it's tradition. You're doing it. Yeah.
I was going to ask, is there anyone particularly that kind of encourages those sorts of shenanigans, player-wise?
All of them, really. Yeah. Obviously the main ones like Jack and Kyle Walker, Vincent Kompany when he was there. And if you see the video, like Sterling, obviously there's quite a few that, wanted me to do it. So I just ended up doing it. James Milner were driving it. Frank Lampard was on there hanging off. And Joe Hart, all giving me abuse while I was running. I went out and bought a full Santa outfit. And then when the lads started training, I come running out. Yaya used to dress up as a judge, and he'd be the judge for the court case.
So, okay, for this little section, I'm going to name some kind of like key players that was around the club at this time. And if you could just tell me any funny story about them that comes to mind. Doesn't have to be, funny, interesting. It doesn't have to be anything completely insane. But just some of these names I think are either, total football legends or cult heroes in some way. So we'll start with Vincent Kompany, club legend, captain.
Leader. An amazing guy. He actually, I remember one instance, we used to train at the stadium the day before games. And remember the days of iTunes, you want Spotify, you had to pay 99p for a song. And I mean, I was 18, 19, I was, spending all my money on clothes and going out. And, 2 weeks in, I'd have no money left. And he wanted me to buy a song, I can't remember, it was Duck Sauce or something like that. Or was it By Duck? I don't know if that's an artist or...
I think that's the artist, it rings a bell.
The Big Bad Wolf, remember?
Yes.
Is it The Big Bad Wolf? That song, and he was like getting changed after training. He went, put this on. So my phone was linked up to the aux cable, so I was going to put it on, and I said, I can't. And he went, why? I've got no money. And he was like, you haven't got 99p? I was like, no. He's like, what do you do with your wages? So from then on, to be fair to him, he always asked, have you saved this amount? He sort of like, with my wages, used to make sure that I put something in. And the nice story of it is, after years of saving, it helped me buy my first house. So if it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't have been able to buy my first house.
Class. Another name, Carlos Tevez, you've mentioned briefly, but he kind of came in,
So when he went away to Argentina and he came back, I used to do the EDS games as well. So we had an EDS game and it was against Morecambe. I remember pulling up and there was two lads beating the life out of someone on the side of the street and everyone was just looking. And I was like, wow. Anyway, we turned up to the stadium and set up. And then Tevez was supposed to play in it, and then he turned up. He had a Bentley, but he always like crammed a load of people into the back. Yeah, apparently they were late because they stopped off for ice cream on the way. He played the first half, and then during the team talk half time, he was just in the shower singing, got changed, and then just gone. Didn't even say bye to anyone. He was gone. But obviously, him coming back that season, it was a 2012 season. He was such a pivotal player to, win the league. Without him, it couldn't have been done.
Definitely. Another player from around that time, there has to be a crazy story here. There's Mario Balotelli.
Too many of him. Not that I can really tell about him.
What about the Why Always Me t-shirt? Did you sort that out for him?
That wasn't me, that was Chappy.
Okay.
So that was Chappy. I was there and helped put it out. But yeah, it wasn't me. I tell you what, going back to Vincent Kompany from that day, I just thought of a story. So at half time, Vinny used to always have this thing where he used to have to change studs all the time. If they got scratched, did you want to change the studs? Wanted fresh studs in. But he used to always ask like the last minute before the bell was going to ring before they went out for the second half. So he wanted at Old Trafford at the 6-1 day, he wanted to change studs. So I'm panicking running around. I couldn't find the stud tightener, the pliers. So I got the studs out and I thought, he's waiting, going, come on. So I tightened them with my fingers. And I thought, it'd be, it's enough. Anyway, luckily we won 6-1 because he come in and he called me over and just lifted his boot. And he had about 3 studs in each boot. They'd all fallen. So that was a lucky one.
Joe Hart, he's one who, like, his celebration during that first title win, still in FIFA now. Is there any good stories about Joe?
There's one that links like James Milner, Frank Lampard and him. There's one story.
They're all on the list, so that's perfect.
Yeah, so before we'd go to a game and there was international break straight after, you'd have to take an extra bag for boots because players wanted extra boots to go going on international break for 2 weeks. So players had come to you before we travel and go, I want these extra boots. I want these extra boots as well. So James Milner came, I want these boots. And I was like, yep. And he went, make sure you remember them. I need these boots. I was like, yep, no problem. They'll be in. We went down to, it was QPR. Got down there on the day of the game. And I opened the bag and the boots weren't in. So I was like, oh my God. Panicky moment. And then when he came in, he gave me a lot of stick. And he said, right, not now. I'm not going to give you a punishment now. It's going to be when you least expect it. So I was like, right, okay. I think this was like September or something. So like, obviously October, November went by and it sort of crossed my mind at times. And I was like, oh, it's gone. 24th of December, Christmas Eve, after training, comes to me and said, today's the day. It was freezing. So they stripped me down to my underwear. Seems pretty standard at this point, doesn't it? They taped him, Joe Hart, taped flip-flops to my feet. I had to do 12 minutes in the steam room and then 12 minutes up to my neck in the ice bath and then straight outside. And have you seen the size of the training ground? It's massive. I had to run the full perimeter in flip-flops and underpants with, on a golf buggy was James Milner were driving it, Frank Lampard was on there hanging off, and Joe Hart all giving me abuse while I was running.
That's amazing. So those guys at that time would have been quite senior players as well. I love to hear that they still had that kind of in
so
them.
That was like Merry Christmas.
Yeah, no doubt.
Your punishment's here.
Amazing. Someone who's still at the club, you've mentioned a couple of times, it sounds like you have a close relationship. Jack Grealish?
Yeah, so Jack, hit it off with him straight away, really. He's just a really good guy, top person, funny to be around. Yeah.
He strikes me as somebody who, like, he could just not be a super famous professional football player and he'd be exactly the same.
100%.
Yeah.
Just a top guy, has time for everybody. And yeah, he's one of the people where I feel like I've made a friend for life in.
That's wicked. Somebody that, probably a club legend as well, Fernandinho.
So it was Fernandinho, it was Pep's first season and he said, I think we had Hull or someone away on Boxing Day. So we had to Christmas Day we had to travel. So he's missing Christmas Day. I remember him saying, you need to do something for it, you know, to perk everyone up. So I went out and bought a full Santa outfit. And then when the lads started training, I come running out. But it sort of put me on the spot because Pep made me sing songs, to which I thought everyone had joined in, but no one did. So it was just me singing Jingle Bells. And then I did a full lap around the pitch with him. And then come in and got changed.
Sergio Agüero, obviously that commentary moment will live forever. When he scored the winning goal against QPR that we spoke about. Any kind of stories about him?
He was just so unfazed by everything. Like, I remember one game when he, everyone was in the tunnel, psyched up, ready to go, and he was still in the dressing room playing. I think he was playing like Clash of Clans, or whatever it is. Yeah. Just literally leaning back. And then I was like, "You need to go. The game's about to start." So he just like shrugged his shoulders, put his phone back. And I'm pretty sure that game he scored an hat-trick. So, but he was like so chilled with everything, just completely laid back. Nothing fazed him.
Yeah. Obviously, he got so much plaudits for his contribution to the Prem, but I still think he's underrated in terms of like how good he was. Emmanuel Adebayor.
Top.
Yeah.
Loved him.
Well, it's one memory for me that sticks out during his time at
Arsenal.
City. Yes, of course. the celebration. What was that like? Like after were people upset at him, maybe looking a bit unsportsmanlike, or were people just like, that's class? That's hilarious.
I didn't really see anything like, obviously, like that. Everyone was just buzzing off it.
Yeah.
But again, you've got to remember, that was my first season. So everything I was just looking at in awe, and everything that I looked at, I thought was normal in football. Because I was just obviously adapting. Literally, a few months ago, I was in high school doing maths.
Yeah.
Now I'm in the dressing room sorting the lads out. So he was top. I absolutely loved him. Always good character, dancing, singing. I remember when Touré came in one day with some rascal gear, super glued the shoes to his locker. So he was good. But then when Patrick Vieira came, he was sort of, he looked up to Pat. So if Pat said anything, it went.
Reined it in a little bit.
Yeah. Manu sort of like, not obeyed.
You mentioned one of them, but the Touré brothers, both kind of
Two different people.
icons.
Two different people, yeah.
Talk about that. What was it?
Colo's very talkative, very social. They're both lovely lads. Yaya is much more quieter, but towards the end, Yaya came out of himself a lot more, like really funny. Like he used to go in, we used to do these thing called court cases. So if anyone did anything in the week, it would be a court case, and Yaya used to dress up as a judge. And he'd be the judge for the court case, and whether they'd get a punishment for whatever they'd done. So it might have been a staff member, it might have been a player. Like if a staff member had forgotten that they had, I don't know, if it were a physio, they'd forgotten a rub. If it were me forgetting something, boots or something, I'd be in the court case for something.
Yeah. Sidebar then, who was in the dock the most often? Who was on trial?
I think it changed quite a lot. It changed quite a lot. They always mixed it up. Yeah.
Everyone was guilty.
I was there a couple of times.
What for?
Probably forgetting stuff.
Yeah. Okay, another player who this is great timing because he's just announced he'll be leaving the club is Kevin De Bruyne.
Yeah.
What can you kind of tell us about him and his character and any stories?
He was like, I mean, he's just a normal person. I felt like he used to sit in the kit room most mornings, like to the point where if anyone come in for like even a towel, I'd be doing something. I'd go, Kev, get him a towel. But then you look at the player that he is, you know, one of the greatest midfielders in Premier League history. You know, it was pretty crazy. He'd call himself the kit man as well.
Yeah. Okay, just a couple more then. One you've mentioned a little bit already, but Haaland. You said he kind of come in and you could tell, okay, this guy's going to make the difference.
Yeah.
He seems like a character as well.
He is. To be fair, at first he was really quiet.
Yeah.
He was really quiet. And then as the season started, like pre-season, he was quiet. Trying to get something out of him, you know, but couldn't really get much out of him. And then when the season started, he really started getting involved, and you know, it was brilliant. He loved just being around the dressing room and around the lads. But yeah, just a great person, really funny.
Yeah, I've heard his Manchester accent a couple of times.
Oh yeah,
It's not bad.
well, he's from Leeds,
Yeah.
so it's not hard.
All right, one more then, who's left the club not long ago, was Cole Palmer. Obviously, he kind of didn't really break into the first team entirely at City, but he must have been around while you was there.
Yeah.
And a note I have here, a note I have here is that he calls you chops.
Yeah. I started calling him it, and then it was just one of the things. He'd never heard of it. He was like, "What does that even mean?" And then all of a sudden, like every day, I go, "All right, chops."
What was that about?
I don't know. I obviously used that term a few times. It's like, have you heard it before? Have you not heard it?
Only reading these
Have
questions.
you not heard it? Chops. It's like a northern thing. Like chops, like just like all geezers say it in the pub or whatever. So I said it to him, and then he didn't know what it was, and then just all of a sudden just started calling each other chops all the time.
Yeah.
And then he commented on post.
I feel like it's good to hear he's got that kind of humour. Could you tell how special he was back then?
Yeah. Unbelievable. What a player. I thought it'd take a little bit longer, but I mean, he's just gone straight into it, and at Chelsea, and he's just been ripping it up.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of everyone I had on my list in terms of player moments. Was there anyone else you wanted to speak about or big up or have a memory of that's worth mentioning?
Fabian Delph, probably. I'm really close with him.
Yeah?
Yeah. Fabian Delph was... I still speak to him most weeks now. You know, he was a great person to have in the dressing room, as you've probably seen in the Amazon documentary. Back to basics. But yeah, just a great guy. And again, someone who I see as a friend for life.
Yeah. I guess he's kind of somebody that seems like he played a pivotal role, but maybe goes under the radar a little bit in terms of
how
he
much
was
a
people
great
are
player.
seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we kind of spoken about a bunch of players there and some highlights of your tenure whilst at City. During those 15 years, if you had to pick one memory that you'll cherish forever, what would it be?
I can never do one. There's three. So it's the 2012 Premier League, the 100 points, because to get a trophy with Pep for the first time, and as well as 100 points, and to see how it just kept going on for the records and everything, and then obviously the treble.
For sure. If you had to pick one of the three, which one are you picking?
Got to be the treble, man. 3 trophies.
For sure.
That was dreamland even on my holidays, I was still on dreamland. I think even when we come back in for pre-season, it was still like, couldn't believe.
Yeah.
And that's the only one I cried at. So yeah.
I hear it, man. I would definitely cry if my club was doing all that. Okay, so we've spoken about all the kind of big moments on the pitch and the glory, if you will. But what's one thing about working as a kit man that people maybe don't appreciate or understand?
Everyone goes to the kit man if they need anything, not just kit. You know, there's just something about a kit man, and it's hard to explain, but every kit man and someone who's in a club understands if you need something, or you know, you go to the kit man, lads used to just come in and have a chat. And like if there's anything logistically that needed sorting, if someone needed sending somewhere or anything else, there are a lot of things that I did that weren't in my contract. I mean, I remember putting the kit out, and then I'm on the pitch, I was doing shape. I mean, I've been Ashley Barnes, I've been different players in shape, and then I'm back in cleaning boots. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you do, you go above and beyond for everyone. And I spoke to many people in football who say that, you know, the kit man's so important.
Yeah.
There's so many unsung heroes at different clubs that obviously people don't know about. I was lucky enough to go viral a couple of times to, you know, get some appreciation, but there's so many people that, you know, are unsung heroes.
For sure. Not to force my club into this interview at all, but so the kit man at Bristol City is a former player, right? Scott Murray. A legend.
Yeah. I met him.
A legend in his own right at the club. But he's been a kit man probably a similar amount of time that you are.
Yeah.
And he seems to be like the kind of vibes man that sets the tone in the dressing room. Do you think that was kind of part of your job as well?
Yeah, but going back to Chappy, he's like absolute legend. And I had the best teacher because he's just a phenomenal person. I still speak to him now. He gives me a lot of advice on stuff. He was always like a father figure to me. But without him and all the batterings he used to give me, but it was all character building. So like even going back to my work experience, I was done off everything. I was done with like the tartan paint, go and get tartan paint, long stand, skirting board ladder, bucket of elbow grease. I was done with all of it. But without Chappy, I wouldn't have been. He brought brought myself out a bit, my character. So without him, I probably wouldn't have been doing the things that I did and be so outspoken and do the slides across the dressing room without him. Because that was normal. With him, he was mental. Like, I think I'm a bit mental, but he's another level mental.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You kind of mentioned already a little bit, but I'm just wondering if specifically there was a real joker or prankster in that dressing room at any point.
It's a bit of everyone. It's not, you'll get you just get lads that are funny. There's not so much pranks. There's not so much pranks on stuff. It's just banter. Yeah. I didn't see so many pranks. There were a few.
Who had the best banter then? If you had to pick one of them over those 15 years, who was always class, always on it?
There's a few, like Stonesy, Delphy, Jack. Who else was I going to say? Oh, Kolarov.
Really?
Amazing. So funny. There were one where, I remember we were in LA and there was a player called Vladimir Weiss.
Okay.
And it went out, the ball went out, and Kolarov was saying it was out. And Vladdy were going, I swear on my life, I swear on my dog's life. And it went all quiet, and he just heard Kolarov say, F you. And it went silent, and he went, and your dog. And everyone just pissed themselves. You really can't use that, but it's a belter.
Okay, so to many people on the outside, it probably looked like you were living the dream working at a club like City, not only in terms of his stature and his, the awards he's won, but also it was your club that you supported. Why did you decide to leave? It can't have been an easy decision.
It wasn't an easy decision, but it was something that was building for a long time inside me. I'd done it for so long since school. And, I was lucky enough to be working for a team that had, won every trophy. And for me, I didn't feel like I was learning. I wanted to do something where I was learning, trying something new. I wanted to take a jump. I didn't want to get to an age where I was asking what ifs to myself. What if I did this? What if I did that? I had a great time. Man City's a great club. But I just felt I want to try something new. I want to see if I can, build something myself and have a go at it. And you know what? I'm so happy I did because, now I feel like things are starting to pay off.
So kind of touching on that, you've set up a few businesses, I believe, recently.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about them and what you've been working on since leaving the club?
So my main job is I work for MPH Sports, which is a property investment company for athletes. I've known about MPH Sports for a number of years, and I've known a few players who've invested in property with them. And I was speaking to them, and I just thought, you know what, I'm going to take a jump, and property investment's always been something I've been interested in. So I've started working there. We do, literally, it's a hands-off procedure for the athlete. So we do set up a private limited company for the tax benefits. We source, do all the compliance, due diligence, the sales progressions. We do open days, get tenants in, manage the property, offer full property portfolio analysis. So it's a full package. It's for players to enjoy being a property investor without the stresses of being a landlord. And I absolutely love it. I work for a company that's got over 300 clients, all athletes, and it's done over 800 agreed sales. And I'm just really happy to be part of the family. It sort of went from me being in one family, the Man City family, and then going into MPH Sports is just another family. So it felt really good to be doing that rather than just going out and being on my own. I've got a lot of people supporting me and, teaching me a lot of things. Yeah, as well, I've been lucky enough I'm a brand ambassador for Monster Energy. So this is a bit like this, a bit of media work, something completely different that I've never done, but I'm really enjoying it. I'm going to different clubs, interviewing players, doing some challenges against players. And I've really enjoyed the first part of it. I'm looking forward to what the rest of the year, holds.
For sure. Okay, so there's plenty there keeping you busy.
There's a lot, and then there is Paris Siempre, my clothing brand. It's something I've always wanted to do, seeing lads in different stuff all the time. So it's a luxury streetwear brand. My business partner, he's done it before. He had a successful brand. He reached out to me in the summer, and we sat down in a Spanish restaurant and started speaking about it. And I said, right, let's do it. So we were drinking, and then as we was thinking about a name, you know, the waiter kept bringing more beers and stuff, and he kept saying Paris the Emperor, so that's why it's called Paris the Emperor. It was like, perfect, that's the name, easy.
Love that.
And then there's one more. I have another company called Scent, and it's aftershave machines. So it's in venues like, can go in venues like bars, gyms, restaurants, basically anywhere. So it fits on the wall in the toilets. It has 5 of the best-selling premium aftershaves, like scents. It's touchscreen, so you literally pick your aftershave, you pay, and then it sprays you.
All right, wicked. So you've kind of mentioned on a business level, plenty going on since leaving City. I guess open question: what else does the future hold, whether that's personally or professionally? What else is on the agenda for you?
Hopefully success, as anyone wishes. But leaving Man City it's taught me so much about myself. I didn't know I had this drive and fire in my belly, because obviously before being at Man City, you know, you're getting told what to do. It's a job. You know, you go here, you go in there, this needs to be there. But now it's sort of, you know, I need to do it myself. And that was my only worry, because I'm always used to someone telling me what to do. But I didn't know I had this fire in my belly. So I'm hoping everything works out. I'm really enjoying everything I'm doing. I mean, I'm constantly busy. I'm always on my phone taking calls, but I'm at home now. You know, I'm at home majority of the time. And, you know, I'm hoping that everything works out with what I'm doing. But the main thing is I'm enjoying it. I'm spending more time with my kids and my family and my friends. So yeah.
For sure, man. I mean, you know, being around so many serial winners for so long, it has to have rubbed off one.
I think that has helped.
Yeah.
I spoke to someone last week who's a successful businessman, and he said, I think your fire in your belly comes from your previous job, because you've been around serial winners, and, you know, you've got that from them.
Learn from the best.
Just maybe being around it, and you're being used to winning, that you're driven to it.
Wicked, man. I mean, that's it from me. Thank you so much for the time, bro.